Welcome to the deep dive. We take the material you send us and explore it for the key insights and unexpected connections.
Yeah, exactly.
Today, we're diving into excerpts from Jerry B. Jenkins' novel Riven, which one of you shared with
So
us.
these excerpts, they introduce us to some really compelling characters, all at pretty critical points in their lives.
Right.
We meet Pastor Thomas Carey, who's facing some unforeseen challenges in his ministry. Then there's a young man, Brady Darby, navigating a really difficult, unstable upbringing.
Hmm.
And we also get this very raw glimpse into life inside a high-security prison.
So, our goal in this deep dive is to, well, really try and understand the core struggles these individuals are grappling with.
And see if we can spot any, glimmers of transformation within their stories, which seem pretty separate at first glance.
Okay, so let's start with Thomas Carey. Here's a guy who's dedicated a big chunk of his life to being a pastor. What do we see early on?
Well, right from the get-go, you see a clear commitment to his church in Foley. He started a visitation program, connecting with members in their homes,
Yeah, that sounds involved.
and he updated the children's night activities. These actions, they really show a pastor who's actively involved. Going beyond just the Sunday sermon, it suggests he genuinely cares.
And yet, despite all that dedication, he finds himself basically being asked to leave.
It's quite something.
The conversation he has with the ARBC committee chairman is pretty revealing, isn't it? He requested the meeting, not them.
Exactly. And they were surprisingly blunt, admitting they didn't think his preaching even, warranted a visit.
Wow. What does that tell us about the dynamics there?
It highlights something that can happen in, lots of fields, even service-oriented ones. Perceived value is key.
Right.
Thomas's dedication was there, sure, but maybe it just didn't align with what the denominational leadership expected or wanted.
So it's not just about the effort, but how it lands.
Precisely. And that has real, tangible consequences for him and his family.
Absolutely. His daughter, Ravinia, she's at Emory Law School. That's a big financial commitment.
Huge.
So that pressure adds another layer, right, to his need to find something more stable, maybe better paying. So what's the alternative that ARBC gives him?
Well, they offer him this circuit of 5 smaller, financially struggling rural churches.
Oh,
And the centerpiece, if you can call it that, is this pretty rundown parsonage in Oldenburg. It's a big step down from his previous post.
yeah, definitely not the bigger work he was hoping for.
Not at all. It's got professional implications, personal ones too.
And Ravinia's reaction is sharp, isn't it? She cuts right to the chase.
She does. As a law student, she's analytical.
Wow.
No sugarcoating. You're leaving Foley. What happened? Just like that.
She really brings the practical side into focus.
Yeah, her directness is a good contrast to her parents' more faith-based perspective, maybe. She's focused on the tangible stuff.
Yeah.
The move, the lack of appreciation, the uncertain future.
And that question, what do you have to show for it, that really lands.
It really does. It highlights that potential gap between putting in the years and, getting something tangible back.
So then we see Thomas trying to settle into this Oldenburg circuit, and there's this tension, subtle, but it's there, with Paul Pierce at the chapel. What's going on there?
Well, a few things hint at friction. Paul's always meeting with his sons. Maybe his focus is split.
Could be.
Thomas taking Mondays off seems to be an issue, suggesting different ideas about work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
And then Thomas conducted an extra service, maybe without Paul really being in the loop initially. It could suggest a bit of a power struggle or just different ways of doing things.
But then things shift again. They move to Adamsville, and this guy, Jimmy Johnson, mentions an opportunity at the Adamsville State Penitentiary, ASP.
Right, and this is not the kind of pastoral role Thomas ever imagined.
Definitely not.
Johnson is careful, isn't he? He even suggests Grace shouldn't be there for the first chat. That tells you something.
Yeah, it signals this isn't your typical church job.
He explicitly says it's not a pastorate. He's setting the stage for the unique challenges of prison ministry. It's a whole different world.
And the outgoing chaplain, Russ, he paints a very stark picture of ASP, high security, death row.
Minimal inmate contact and absolutely no proselytizing allowed.
It sounds incredibly restrictive, isolating, especially for someone like Thomas.
It's a system with totally different priorities than a church. The focus, as Warden Leroy later confirms, is security and punishment. That's a fundamental conflict for someone whose life has been about spiritual guidance and community.
But despite all these warnings from Russ, Thomas takes the job. Why do you think he does that?
It's probably a mix of things.
Mhm.
Sense of duty, maybe. A feeling he can still offer some kind of support, even with limits.
Financial pressure is still a factor too, I
Oh,
imagine.
definitely. Ravinia's tuition isn't going away. And after Foley and Oldenburg, well, maybe this just seemed like a viable option, even if it wasn't ideal.
And Grace's reaction is interesting too. She just wants a church they can attend, be members for a change.
Yeah, that really speaks to the personal cost of ministry, doesn't it? The toll it takes on the family.
It suggests a certain weariness, maybe, from always being the pastor's wife, always on.
Exactly. They've been a team in this, and now their needs might be diverging a little.
So Thomas starts at ASP, and it's immediate immersion. Meeting Warden Leroy, learning the strict rules, that first encounter with the inmate Zach.
A real baptism by fire.
Yeah, quite a contrast to his old life.
And that interaction with Zach, it immediately shows the power dynamics, the constant testing that goes on. Warden Leroy's warning about Zach pulling your chain that sets the tone for the kind of relationships Thomas has to navigate. Trust is probably a rare commodity.
And Warden Leroy is blunt about the prison's philosophy, punishment over reform. That must be a huge challenge for Thomas, ethically and professionally.
It hits right at the core of his calling, doesn't it? He's in a system focused on retribution, not rehabilitation. How does he square that with his own beliefs about hope and change? It's a big question.
Then there's the encounter with Deacon Trenton, Deke, on death row. Deke pushing back against prayer, against scripture.
It just shows the level of despair, maybe resentment you find there. Thomas's usual tools, prayer, scripture, they might not work the same way in that environment. He needs a different approach.
Meanwhile, back in Oldenburg, Paul Pierce is leading a move to actually remove Thomas as pastor of the circuit he just left.
Yeah, challenges on all fronts, it seems. It shows how complex, sometimes political church dynamics can be.
Grace's comment about the Pierce's hatred really underscores the emotional impact of it all.
Absolutely. These things leave scars.
Later, Jimmy Johnson reaches out again about the chaplaincy, and they meet in person. That seems to seal the deal for Thomas. What do you think happened in that meeting?
Well, Johnson pursuing it, meeting face-to-face, it suggests he really saw something in Thomas, some suitability for this very unconventional role.
Maybe he laid out the specific needs, the ways a chaplain could make a difference, even within the rules.
That's likely. Highlighting those opportunities for connection, for support, that maybe weren't obvious at first glance.
So Thomas and Grace finally get to Adamsville. There's this sense of exhaustion, but also maybe a little hope.
A fragile hope, yeah.
Yeah.
But then there's the mention of Grace's health, that unexplained bruise. That casts a shadow, doesn't it?
It really does. It adds this layer of personal worry right as he's starting this new professional chapter. It's not just about the job anymore.
No, their challenges are becoming personal, too.
We also find out Ravinia is doing pro bono legal work, and her cases might actually intersect with Thomas's work at ASP.
An unexpected connection forming there.
Yeah, even though there aren't traditional chapel services, it suggests their different paths might cross inside the prison walls.
It bridges those worlds, the legal and the spiritual, in a way neither probably anticipated.
And Gladys's advice to Thomas, learn the administrative rules, use the regulations. It sounds like really practical, vital guidance for surviving in that system.
Definitely. He needs to adapt. The rules aren't just restrictions. They can be a framework for actually helping inmates and for protecting himself within that complex environment.
Then there's that small detail. Inmates really value a free 15-minute phone call.
Speaks volumes, doesn't it? About the isolation, the longing for connection.
That little bit of contact with the outside world becomes huge.
A lifeline. And for Thomas, maybe a way to build some trust, some rapport.
But just as Thomas is maybe finding his way at ASP, Grace's health is clearly getting worse.
Yeah.
And he's caught in this conflict, right? Between his duties at the prison, especially with Trenton's execution looming, and needing to be there for Grace.
It's a terrible internal struggle.
Yeah.
Balancing ministry, personal responsibility, the emotional weight of her illness, and the ticking clock of the execution adds immense pressure.
That conversation with Ravinia about Grace's health, it's strained, and Ravinia's got her own marital problems. It shows how interconnected all their struggles are.
Yeah, nobody's problems exist in a vacuum. The whole family is navigating difficult times, impacting each other.
And then, tragically, Grace passes away. Ravinia singing Rock of Ages at the funeral. That feels significant.
It really does. Maybe a moment of reconnecting with her parents' faith in the midst of grief, or just finding comfort in something familiar.
Music can do that.
Absolutely. It could signify a shared moment, maybe even a slight shift in her perspective.
And Thomas, he keeps going with his work at ASP after Grace is gone, reflecting on his ministry, still praying for Ravinia. It shows his resilience, doesn't it?
It underscores that endurance, the strength of those core relationships, faith, family, even when life changes drastically. His ministry took a turn he never expected, but his fundamental values remain.
Okay, let's shift now to Brady Darby. His youth sounds, well, tumultuous, putting it mildly. What's your first take on his situation?
Right from the start, you get a picture of instability. His behavior in the school bus, trying to fit in with different groups, but not quite belonging.
Suggests he's searching for something. Acceptance.
Yeah, maybe acting out as a defense. He seems like an outsider looking for a place to land.
And the part-time job cleaning the movie theater, funding his own football fees, his own movie tickets, that says a lot.
It shows resourcefulness, independence, but maybe born out of necessity, right?
Yeah.
It hints at a lack of consistent support, financial or emotional, at home.
His relationship with his mother, Earlene, sounds strained, and he's worried about his younger brother, Peter.
It seems like the roles are reversed there. Brady's acting like the responsible one, the parent almost.
He knows about her substance abuse, too. That's heavy for a kid.
It's a tough childhood, forcing him to deal with adult problems way too soon.
So Brady quits the football team. That feels like a turning point.
It does. Like he's stepping away from an expected path, looking for something else, even if he doesn't know what it is yet. A rejection of that athlete identity.
And then this completely unexpected pivot, getting involved in the school musical, Bye Bye Birdie. No experience at all.
It's fascinating, right? Suggests a hidden side, maybe a willingness to try something totally new.
He hesitates at first, but then really commits.
Yeah, it shows a growing desire for self-expression, maybe a different kind of recognition than sports offered.
The detail about borrowing Stevie Ray's Stratocaster, even though he can't play.
Huh, yeah. It shows his commitment, maybe a bit of audacity too, resourceful, persuasive even.
But there's conflict, too, with Alex North during rehearsals.
It suggests his past reputation, or maybe his own insecurities, still create friction as he tries to find his footing in this new social scene. Old perceptions are hard to shake.
He feels disconnected from his classes, talked to Dean Hosey about his future. Sounds like he feels a bit lost academically.
Yeah, like he doesn't see a path for himself beyond manual labor, maybe. He wants stability, family, but doesn't seem to believe he can get there through school.
Yet he's determined to make something of the musical, to prove himself in this new way.
The musical becomes his focus, his chance to redefine himself, gain some accomplishment.
And his performance is strong. The audience loves it. That must have felt good.
Huge validation, yeah. A real taste of success and acceptance probably boosted his confidence.
But then, Earlene's behavior at the show and Brady getting kicked out for failing midterms, it's like reality crashing back in.
It really is. Almost like self-sabotage, or maybe just the difficulty of sustaining effort when your home life is so unstable.
His casual attitude about failing, maybe hiding disappointment.
Could be. Or maybe just resignation, a feeling that good things don't last for him.
So he drifts back to more familiar work-loading car stops for Alejandro.
A step back, really. Less fulfilling, less opportunity for growth than the musical hinted at. Hard to break those old patterns.
His reaction to his father's death ambivalence that speaks volumes about their relationship, or lack of one.
Yeah, no strong emotion. Just underscores the absence of a meaningful connection there. Another void in his upbringing.
Then moving into the laborer's shack, starting meth use, that's a dangerous turn.
A critical downward spiral. Using drugs to cope, but it just leads to more instability, more danger.
And the relationship with Pepe, the shotgun incident. It shows the kind of volatile environment he's now in.
Real physical danger, unpredictability. It just makes his situation even more precarious.
That heartbreaking story about his mom forgetting Christmas Eve, leaving Peter alone.
And Brady steps in, again. Despite everything he's going through, he cares for Peter.
Shows that deep sense of responsibility, that love for his brother is still there.
A remarkable selflessness amidst the chaos really highlights the strength of their bond.
The police visit about Tatlock and the drugs, that's the first sign of serious legal trouble brewing.
Yeah, foreshadowing. His choices are catching up to him, putting him on law enforcement's radar.
He tries again, maybe, quitting the foreman job to focus on Burger Boy, wanting to be Red's assistant.
Seems like an attempt at stability, a legitimate path.
But the drug use, the dealing, it undermines everything.
He's caught, isn't he? Wants better, but can't break free from addiction, from the lure of quick illicit money.
And then the incident with Katie North, the arrest, that's the culmination.
The tragic, maybe inevitable result of that downward spiral leads to the most serious consequences yet.
What's surprising, though, is his remorse afterwards, wanting punishment.
Yeah, it suggests he recognizes the gravity of it all. Maybe a flicker of conscience, a need for accountability finally, or just overwhelming guilt.
And his transfer to death row at ASP, that's where his story directly collides with Thomas Carey's.
Exactly.
Those first experiences on death row sound brutal. The noise, the harassment.
A shocking reality check.
Yeah.
A dehumanizing environment designed to strip everything away. Profound isolation.
But then a shift, a significant one. He starts finding faith, influenced by Chaplain Carey's visits, reading a Bible.
It's a profound transformation.
Yeah.
Starting. Thomas's quiet persistence, the scripture,
Hmm.
it starts to get through. Shows that potential for change even in the bleakest places.
Asking for grace's hymns, really focusing on the Gospels and Romans.
That points to a genuine seeking, doesn't it? Looking for solace, understanding the Gospels, Romans' themes of Jesus' life, sin, redemption. They must be resonating deeply with him personally.
And his request for execution by crucifixion,
Hmm.
that's extraordinary, deeply symbolic.
Truly remarkable. It shows this complete identification with Christ's suffering. He wants his death to be a testament, a message, speaks volumes about how sincere and deep his transformation is.
The global attention, his final days focused on prayer. His story really had a far-reaching impact.
Yeah, it became this public narrative about crime, punishment, redemption. But his focus seemed internal, on his faith, right up to the end.
His final words, quoting Jesus, the impact afterwards, it suggests his life, despite the tragedy, found some measure of meaning, left a mark.
An unexpected legacy of transformation, definitely. Affecting others in ways you wouldn't predict.
So let's think about how these two lives, Thomas and Brady, twine together. What are the key links?
Well, the most direct one is Ravinia, right? Her taking Brady's case pro bono puts her right in his orbit as his lawyer.
That's the tangible bridge.
Yeah, connecting Thomas's world through his daughter directly to Brady's.
And just the geography, Adamsville, the prison is there, the church circuit Thomas briefly served was nearby.
It puts them in the same physical space, even if their worlds are miles apart socially. Provides that backdrop for their stories to eventually intersect.
And maybe a more subtle connection, Thomas's ministry indirectly influencing Brady's journey, even before they met as chaplain and inmate.
Could be. Maybe seeds planted earlier, and Lois perhaps. Faith can lie dormant and resurface unexpectedly.
Ravinia's perspective potentially shifting too, seeing Brady's transformation up close, maybe challenging her view of her parents' faith.
That's another key link. Witnessing authentic faith, especially in someone like Brady, could definitely make someone as analytical as Ravinia reconsider her own skepticism.
It really highlights how encountering genuine change in someone else can challenge our own ideas.
Absolutely.
So ultimately, this connection between a pastor finding a new path in prison and a death row inmate finding faith, it really underscores these big themes, doesn't it? Redemption, change in unlikely places.
It shows that human connection, spiritual growth, they can happen anywhere. Across social divides, prison walls, preconceived notions.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive into Riven, we've really seen these powerful threads of change woven through the lives of Thomas, Brady, and Ravinia too.
Yeah, and faith, often showing up unexpectedly, seems to be a major catalyst.
We've seen the sheer complexity of life's challenges, career setbacks, addiction, guilt.
But also that surprising capacity for connection, for transformation, even when things seem completely hopeless.
The journeys are so different. Thomas finding purpose in the prison, Brady finding redemption at the end of his life, Ravinia maybe reevaluating her own beliefs through it all.
It's a potent reminder that change is always possible, isn't it? Transformation can happen anywhere, touch anyone, profoundly.
And that brings us to a final thought for you, the listener. Think about the unexpected sources of change in your own life. Have you ever connected with someone or found understanding where you least expected it, with someone whose life seemed worlds away from yours?
And what does it really mean to be well-informed when faced with such diverse human stories, such potential for change that exists within all of us, no matter our circumstances?
Something to consider. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.